Off the Gambian coast, a somber sentinel stands. Kunta Kinte Island, once called James Island, bears witness to a painful past. This small island holds stories of tragedy, resilience, and the enduring spirit of humanity. Its legacy is forever intertwined with the transatlantic slave trade, a dark chapter in human history. The island's decaying structures whisper stories of unimaginable suffering and resilience. Today, Kunta Kinte Island stands as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The island serves as a pilgrimage site for many, particularly those of African descent seeking to connect with their ancestry. It is a place for somber reflection and a call to action against all forms of oppression and injustice. Kunta Kinte Island gained international recognition through Alex Haley's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, Roots. Haley, an African-American writer, traced his ancestry back to this very island. He claimed Kunta Kinte, a young Mandinka warrior captured and enslaved in the 18th century, as his ancestor. The book and subsequent miniseries brought the horrors of the slave trade into the homes and hearts of millions worldwide. Kunta Kinte's story, his capture, his resistance, and his enduring spirit resonated with people across the globe. It sparked conversations about race, identity, and the lingering impact of slavery on modern society. Despite the debate, the impact of Roots remains undeniable. It brought the transatlantic slave trade into the global spotlight and sparked crucial dialogue about racial injustice. Before it was known as Kunta Kinte Island, this desolate outpost bore the name James Island. Its history stretches back to the 15th century when Portuguese explorers first set foot on its shores. However, it was the arrival of the British in the 17th century that would forever alter the island's fate. In 1661, the British erected a fort on the island, a forbidding structure of stone and timber. This fort, christened James Fort, would become a central hub for the transatlantic slave trade in the region. Within the fort's walls, a dark and brutal business was conducted. Enslaved Africans, captured from the interior of the continent, were brought to James Island. The fort became a place of unimaginable cruelty, a stark reminder of the depths of human depravity. The transatlantic slave trade was a vast and complex enterprise, driven by the insatiable demand for labor in the Americas. European powers, including Britain, Portugal, France, and Spain, established colonies in the New World. These colonies relied on enslaved African labor to cultivate cash crops such as sugar, tobacco, and cotton. The trade followed a triangular route. Ships would depart from Europe carrying manufactured goods, weapons, and alcohol. These goods were exchanged for enslaved Africans on the west coast of Africa. The ships, now laden with their human cargo, would then embark on the harrowing Middle Passage across the Atlantic. While the island's history is filled with sorrow, it is also a testament to the resilience and resistance of the African people. Among the countless individuals who were imprisoned on James Island, one name resonates with particular power: Kunta Kinte. Kunta Kinte's story, as told in Alex Haley's Roots, captivated the world and brought the horrors of the slave trade into sharp focus. Kinte, a Mandinka warrior from the Gambia River region, was captured in 1767 at the age of 17. Despite the brutality he faced, Kinte never lost his will to resist. He made 4 attempts to escape from the island, each time met with brutal punishment. Kinte's legacy continues to inspire people around the world to fight for justice, equality, and the recognition of our shared humanity. For the enslaved Africans brought to James Island, the island became a desolate prison, a stark contrast to the vibrant lands from which they had been stolen. Ripped from their homes and families, they were thrust into a world of unimaginable cruelty. The island, once a place of natural beauty, became synonymous with suffering and despair. The enslaved were housed in cramped and filthy barracks, often referred to as slave dungeons. These dungeons, located within the fort walls, were poorly ventilated and offered little protection from the elements. Disease ran rampant in these overcrowded and unsanitary conditions. The enslaved received minimal food and water, barely enough to sustain life. Their captors viewed them not as human beings, but as commodities to be exploited for profit. Even in the face of such brutality, the enslaved Africans found ways to hold on to their humanity. The days on James Island were long and arduous for the enslaved. They were forced to work from dawn till dusk under the watchful eyes of their captors. The men were often put to work repairing the fort, loading and unloading ships, or clearing land. Women and children were tasked with domestic chores within the fort, including preparing food and cleaning. Every moment was lived under the constant threat of violence. The crack of the whip served as a constant reminder of the precariousness of their existence. Despite the horrors they endured, the enslaved Africans never surrendered their hope for freedom. Acts of resistance, both large and small, served as a testament to their unyielding spirit. Even today, centuries after the transatlantic slave trade ended, the echoes of anguish still reverberate on Kunta Kinte Island. Walking through the ruins of James Fort, one can almost hear the weeping of mothers separated from their children, the cries of those subjected to unimaginable cruelty. The island stands as a visceral reminder of the darkest chapter in human history. The door of no return, a symbolic archway facing the Atlantic Ocean, serves as a poignant reminder of the countless souls who passed through this point, never to see their homeland again. The island is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recognized for its historical significance and its role in raising awareness about the horrors of slavery. Preservation efforts are underway to protect the island's remaining structures and artifacts. Kunta Kinte Island serves as a solemn reminder of the human capacity for both great evil and extraordinary resilience. The transatlantic slave trade was not just a series of isolated atrocities, it was a complex system that reshaped the world. Driven by greed and a thirst for power, European nations engaged in a ruthless trade that commodified human beings, tearing apart families and devastating entire societies. This trade fundamentally altered the demographics and cultures of the Americas. Millions of Africans, forcibly removed from their homelands, were transported across the Atlantic. Their labor, skills, and cultures became woven into the fabric of the New World, shaping its economies, societies, and artistic expressions. The impact on Africa was catastrophic, draining the continent of its human capital. The psychological scars of this exploitation continue to resonate today. The most harrowing leg of the transatlantic slave trade was the Middle Passage, the perilous journey across the Atlantic Ocean. For weeks, sometimes months, enslaved Africans were crammed into the holds of ships, enduring conditions so horrific that many did not survive the voyage. The ships, built for cargo, became floating prisons, reeking of human waste, sweat, and disease. The enslaved were shackled together, often lying in their own filth, with barely enough room to move. The air was thick with the stench of death, as disease spread rapidly through the tightly packed bodies. The psychological trauma inflicted on the enslaved during the Middle Passage was immeasurable. Torn from their homes, stripped of their identities, and subjected to unimaginable cruelty, they endured a living nightmare. While the transatlantic slave trade was officially abolished in the 19th century, its legacies continue to shape our world. The economic disparities between nations, the persistence of racial prejudice, and the ongoing struggle for equality are all, in part, rooted in this dark chapter of human history. The wealth accumulated by European nations through the exploitation of enslaved Africans fueled their economic development. The after-effects of colonialism and the transatlantic slave trade continue to be felt in many parts of the world. The racist ideologies used to justify slavery did not disappear with its abolition. Systemic racism continues to disadvantage people of African descent in many parts of the world. The fight for racial justice and equality is a direct response to the legacies of the transatlantic slave trade. Section 12. Guardians of Memory. Today, Kunta Kinte Island stands as a solemn reminder of the human cost of greed and oppression. It is a site of pilgrimage, a place for reflection, and a call to action. Recognizing the island's universal importance, UNESCO designated Kunta Kinte Island and related sites as a World Heritage Site in 2003. This designation acknowledges the island's role in the transatlantic slave trade and its significance in understanding this dark chapter of human history. The Gambian government, in partnership with international organizations like UNESCO, is actively involved in preservation efforts on the island. These efforts include stabilizing the crumbling structures of James Fort, documenting the island's history, and creating educational resources for visitors. The preservation of Kunta Kinte Island is not just about maintaining old buildings, it is about safeguarding a vital part of human history. The island serves as a tangible link to the past, a place where visitors can connect with the stories of those who were enslaved and bear witness to the resilience of the human spirit. The site also serves as a powerful tool for education, raising awareness about the transatlantic slave trade and its lasting impact on the world. By preserving the island and its history, we honor the memory of those who suffered and perished here and reaffirm our commitment to fighting against all forms of injustice. Section 13. A Bridge to Understanding. Kunta Kinte Island is more than just a monument to the past. It is a bridge to understanding the present and shaping a better future. The island's story is a stark reminder of the human capacity for both great evil and extraordinary resilience. Visiting the island can be a deeply moving experience, prompting reflection on issues of race, identity, and social justice. It is a place for dialogue and learning, where people from all walks of life can come together to confront the legacies of slavery and work towards a more just and equitable world. The island's story has the power to transcend geographical boundaries and connect with people on a deeply personal level. It reminds us that the fight for freedom and equality is an ongoing struggle, one that requires constant vigilance and a commitment to upholding the rights of all people. By remembering the past and learning from the mistakes of history, we can work towards building a future where such atrocities are never repeated. Kunta Kinte Island stands as a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit can endure and inspire positive change. Section 14. The Unforgettable Journey. A journey to Kunta Kinte Island is not for the faint of heart. It is a journey into the depths of human cruelty, a confrontation with a painful past. The island's story lingers long after the boat has carried visitors back to the mainland. The crumbling walls of James Fort whisper tales of suffering and resilience. The door of no return. Tangible reminders of the horrors inflicted upon millions. They serve as a stark contrast to the island's natural beauty. Kunta Kinte Island stands today, preserved as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It is a symbol of our collective responsibility to learn from history's mistakes. Section 15. Breaking the Chains of Silence. Kunta Kinte Island stands as a beacon, urging us to break the chains of silence around difficult histories. It challenges us to remember the names, faces, and stories of those stolen from their homelands. Their lives and resilience are an integral part of our shared human story. The island's legacy is about the past, present, and future we build together, It calls us to challenge injustice and advocate for a more equitable world. Kunta Kinte Island holds the seeds of hope, urging us to learn, grow, and act for a better tomorrow.